Hello, 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 and welcome to another live stream. Another Monday, 7 o'clock here in Sweden time, and welcome to the show. We're going to talk about lots of updates, lots of bits and pieces in terms of development and software and some hardware. I have a little demo later as well if we have time to do all that stuff, but yeah, there's lots of stuff to get through. In fact, let's just run the graphics on what is coming up today. So today's show, we're going to talk about animated super sources, some work I've been doing. I talked about last week in the post show, but I'm actually going to talk about it a lot more today. And then we can talk about H2R Graphics version 2.1, which is coming out very soon. That is the next beta version. I think it'll be a few more betas before we go into proper release, but I'm interested in doing a few more betas for sure. So we'll see how that goes. Next up, we will talk about the Adamus X. No, wait, Adamus. Atom X Cast. Not the best product naming, but I do have it here. Let me make sure I go to the right camera here. I do have it here beside me, so I'm going to take a look at that. You can see it there on the table. I have a few sources going into it, and we can take a look through what this is later on in the show as well, and talk a lot about it. But for now, I think I'm just going to say hello to, anyone who's strolled in. I was showing some of the stuff there in the pre-show, but I'm keen to get back to it now that I have covered what we're going to talk about on the show today. So thanks and hello to everybody who popped in and said hello already. But I'll just go through a few more here. Darren, thanks so much for popping in as well. Muldorf, if that's the best way to say it, from a member here on the channel as well, actually from Bavaria, which is really cool. And Diego from Portugal. Jim Boko says buckle up. Exactly. And Jared here from Germany. And here to learn some stuff there. The church talk. So excellent to hear that you're here to learn. I did throw a poll in the live chat there. If you are watching live, then answer it. Random question of the week, which may or may not be useful in the future. But I wanted to know how many podcasts people listen to on a weekly basis. If you're watching on demand, comment below and let me know how many you listen to. Personally, I'm actually pretty behind on mine, so I actually end up listening to several episodes a week of podcasts, but I only really have one or two that I actually am properly subscribed to. So I'm just interested to hear what people out there are into for sure. Oh yeah, and Randy just reminding me here. Great to see your studio on Arn's broadcast yesterday. Yeah, Arn did a fun little dressing up as other people's studios yesterday, which was quite impressive. I was impressed by how much photoshopping he did of all of the cutting out all of the microphones and stuff. Whenever I sent him the photo, I thought he would just sit in front of the microphone and you'd never notice it. But good for him doing all that. It looked great. I just tuned in right on time to see mine as well, so it was pretty funny. But yeah, I think we'll just head into it. So H2R layouts or SuperSource layouts is what I really wanted to talk a lot about today. So as you may or may not know, SuperSource is something you can do on an ATEM, which looks a bit like this. Let me see, what am I set up for? Yeah, there you go. You can see all sorts of crazy stuff happening on mine, but that's my SuperSource layout. And by default, you can only do static layouts on the ATEM, but in this case, as you saw there, we had a animated layout. I'm just jumping between cameras and then heading back into my animated layout. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about building today. I did make a tool a while ago. Let me just change the page on my device here. So I did make a tool a while ago called Layouts. That's what it was called, H2R Layouts, where you could design your own layouts for ATEM SuperSource. And since then, I've added a lot of features to it, and actually an option for vMix as well. But if you've used this already and you have an ATEM Mini Extreme, ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, or Constellation, or some of those bigger ATEMs, then you might have used this already. But if you haven't, then this would be your chance to do so after this live stream. And the real main purposes of today was to talk about the animated section, which is now live. You can go to layouts.heretorecord.com and give it a go. Check it out, see if it works well for you. I'm hoping it does, and if it doesn't, you can let me know and I can certainly fix any issues that pop up along the way. But let's just take a quick demo through how it works right now. So the idea with the static and with the animated layouts is that you actually create your final layout look. So in my case, I gave this demo last week a little bit, but I'll just give it again this week. What I tend to use a lot for conferences is this sort of presenter in a box, and then their slides in another box, and that's a pretty standard layout for a lot of the gigs that I end up doing. So something like this, looks perfectly fine. And then from there, that's what my final SuperSource layout is going to look like. So usually you would grab the ATEM SuperSource macro, but in my case, I want to grab the animated version. Now what you'll notice here is this is actually lots of different macros all put together. You don't need to do anything with this if you don't want to. You can just copy that macro out of there, which is the easy way to do it. And if I just close that down, and then the next step is to grab your ATEM software control, and you want to generate a file that you can paste that XML into. So in this case, you can do a file and save as, and then you can call it whatever you want. Animated SuperSource test is the one I did earlier. Let's do animated SuperSource test number 2. Save that. And we don't really care about anything but the macros. So we'll just choose macros, hit save on that. And I'm having an interesting day with my ATEM today. It's been acting very strange for me. But luckily it seems to be working just fine. We can come back to that later, what kind of quirks I was having on the old ATEM today. But it seems to be working just fine now, which is excellent. So I've saved that file out of my ATEM, and I want to open up that file in a editor of some sort. I have this one here, which is VS Code, which is what I like to use, but you can use any code editor or various other things like that to edit the code. And so you open up the animated SuperSource test file. This is the one I used earlier. I'll just continue to use that one. And at the bottom of all the macros, you can paste in the code that you copied from the website. Let me just make sure that I haven't copy pasted anything before. I'll just copy that again, paste it in here, and you can see it's lots of stuff. It's not formatted very nicely, but it doesn't really matter for this use case. And I'll just Control S and save that. Close it down, and then I want to restore that same file back in again. In my case, I called it this animated test. There we go, that one. And macros are the only option because there's only macros in that file. And I can restore those in. And it takes a few seconds sometimes. In my case, it was taking minutes earlier, which was worrying, but it seems to be working again. And if I go into the macro section and go to the last page, I have these 8 different macros loaded up now. Now you might wonder, we only have 2 different boxes. Why is there 8 macros? And that's just because of the fact that you can add up to 4 boxes, and there's 2 macros per box, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's why it takes up those 8 slots at the very end of your pool. I was hoping by putting it at the very end that you wouldn't necessarily have any macros that far in. So, and you can always edit those numbers and put them wherever you want, but for now that's where they're put at. So that's very much part 1 of the process. And part 2 is a little bit simpler actually. What I have designed this animated SuperSource layouts to do is you load in the macros into the ATEM as you just saw. And then the other side of it is you control those macros via Companion. So what I've made available on the website as well, on Layouts website, is right next to copy macros, there's also this download Companion page option. And if we do that, it downloads a page that I can use inside of Companion. And if I open up my Companion instance here, go into my buttons and just go to the very end where I don't have any buttons right now, you can import full configurations into Companion, but you can also import just pages. So I'll just grab that one that I just saved there, and you can see here that it brings in 4 buttons, 1, 2, 3, and then this one is a 4th one as well. You'll see that in a second. The only thing I have to do really is tell it which ATEM I want to use. So by default, the page knows that it needs to connect to an ATEM, and you just say, okay, well, I'll choose my ATEM in the Extreme, and I can import that into my ATEM right there. And now what you'll see is if I test these buttons, then my SuperSource will enact. So there you go. I clicked on that button and it worked, as you saw there. But what I need to do now is I want you to see those buttons. So just bear with me for a second. What you're looking at right now on the screen is my ATEM in SuperSource sort of mode, but I also want to add on top of that my second display. So now what you can see is my display overlaid on top of that, just so I can show you these buttons at the same time. So I'll just drag those down out of the way. And the way I'm doing this actually is I run my whole live stream through vMix. That way I could talk about that later, why I do that, but mostly it's just for my graphics, and it saves, in my case, it's a little bit easier on my setup to do it like this. So mostly I do it for my graphics. But there you go. So now you're looking at my ATEM in the background there, and then in the foreground you can see the companion buttons. I just want you to see both of that at the same time. And if I head back over to my companion page, now everything's getting a little bit smaller on my computer here, so I just want to make sure I'm clicking on the right thing. Yes, I am. Perfect. As I click on each of these 1 or 2, I'll go to camera number 1 or camera number 2, and you can see it's actually switching between those two full screen cameras there just fine. And then you'll notice on the top actually that the SuperSource word comes with you, which is quite nice. So you know which one you want to click on for the SuperSource. So I click on that one and it scales that box down to go SuperSource. I can go back up again, back down again. Now if I go back up to 2, you'll see that I want to click on this button to go SuperSource. But if I wasn't to click on that button, if I was to click on this one over here, which is got no text on it right now, it makes for a weird effect. It works just fine, but you'll notice that if I just click these buttons, it's basically just playing back an animation, and that's all that happens. When you click on it, it plays back an animation. Same goes for these. When you click on it, it just plays back an animation. So if you click them on the right order, it looks good, and if you click them in the wrong order, it looks a little bit strange, but you could get away with that, I'm sure. And that is, at a quick glance, the layouts, the animated layouts feature on Graphics V2. No, wait, I've got all my terms wrong here because I'm reading something else in the background. On H2R Layouts, the new animated SuperSource features on H2R Layouts. I've got too many projects going that they're all scrambling in my head there. We're going to get into a bit more on that in a second, but I just want to make sure I didn't leave anybody behind or there weren't any questions on that before I went any further. Oh, actually, here's a nice little, not so much a question, but some support. Let me just turn that off for a second. And yes, thank you so much, Joel. I appreciate it a lot. Thanks for this. No problem at all. So the tool itself that you just saw there, I just showed off, not this, that's Companion, but this page is free to use, layouts.here2record.com. You can go in there and create your layouts as you wish, and scroll down and grab the static versions, the animated versions, the Doug Johnson production versions. If you don't know what that is, then check out the website to learn more on that as well. So all that's free to use. So thanks so much, Joel, for the support on that. But if you do want to support the project or anything like that, then you can scroll down and you can get these packs. Now that's something else I just released today. In fact, I just got a bunch of emails from some people who were nice enough to pre-order the pack that I put on pre-order last week, and it just got released at the start of this live stream today. But if you're interested in the packs, you can definitely do that, and clicking on the Buy Animated Packs button will take you to the right place. And in here, internet's a little bit slow today. I'll let it load. You get a glimpse of all the packs that you can get. So I've chosen a few different layouts. So the presenter pack is kind of the beginner one with a few presenter style ones like side by sides and one big, one small. Then you can go for interview pack, which has some 2-ups, some 3-ups, some 4-ups, and then some sort of, funky 4-ups. Medium pack has a lot more stuff in there, as you can see, and then we'll skip to the Pro pack at the end, 126 different layouts, and it has all sorts of different bits and pieces that I've put together and made it use nicely. It looks like we got a lot of options there, and people who've gotten the static version of the SuperSource packs have been super happy. I've had lots of nice emails about those, so I'm really happy to finally make my way to making an animated version of this stuff. In fact, I wanted to give you a quick little preview of what comes in the packs if I just close all that stuff out. So this is a little sneak peek at the Pro pack. This is what gets downloaded whenever you grab that. You have all these folders which have macros in them, but you have this reference PDF here, and in that is where you get to see all of these layouts in a lot better quality. So for example, you can scroll through the pages and find the one that you really like. I quite like these ones here, so sort of like a 3-person show plus a video that they're talking about or talking over, for example. Or one of the later packs down here, which was the 1+ large, what we call the presentation pack. So a person talking and their slides on the side. So you get the reference PDF, and then you can just, let me just open that up again actually, because you grab the number. So I like C801, and then I just head into C8, chapter 8, and 01. There's the XML file for that. And it looks the same as the stuff that you copy and paste from the website, but it's all nicely laid out for you. And in fact, in here is the companion pages as well for 4, 3, 2, or 1 box. And you can just drag and drop those into your companion setup. So that's a quick look at the packs. There's a link in the video description below if you want to check those out. In fact, I think I'll just paste that into the chat as well, because the link in the video description right now gets you 25% off any of the packs. So I encourage you. That's not going to last for much longer actually. It's time for that to go away, that 25% discount. So grab it while you still have the chance for sure. But thanks to anyone who's pre-ordered already or before they got to this release day. And if you want to grab the pack, then I definitely recommend and encourage it a lot. Now, I saw some stuff come in there. I don't want to miss it. Let me see. David said, random comment. You know, I might come back to that a bit later, actually. We'll come back to that in the Q&A a bit later. David, thank you for the question, though. Let's see. Matt says, just an idea on the copy button, just to change it to copied once click to save the buttons moving around. Yeah, that's true. I could easily do that. Definitely. I think, though, whenever you move buttons around, it makes it feel like something has happened there. So I quite like that there's a little bit of a visual change, but yeah, I could definitely do that. Lintaga says, is it a companion file with the pack layouts? Yeah, I think it showed that. You get 4 different companion pages. It's not quite a, it's not a full config, obviously, it's just a page. And then you can load each page in if you wish. The thing about the pages is that they are linked to certain buttons, so you do have to do some configuration if you want to make some changes in there. But it's just 4 pages that uses inputs 1 through 4, and then and you can just play with it. If you know Companion, or if you're just starting out with a Companion, I think you'll be able to make your way through that pretty easily. So that's what comes with it. And Jimboko says the Companion output is just the cherry on top. Incredible work. Yeah, the thing is, you could actually just use these as macros and run the macros just fine. But I would definitely recommend the Companion workflow if that's something that you already use in your setup, because it does make it a lot easier. In fact, let's just take a little peek back over in Companion here, because there are a few things you can change in there. So you're looking at Companion now. Excellent. So this is the page that I just imported, and you'll see that I'll start with these SuperSource buttons. These two are the same. And like I said, all this is editable inside of Companion. Nothing is set in stone. So what this button does, SuperSource, when you press it, it sets program on the HM to SuperSource, just in case it wasn't on SuperSource, and then it runs a macro. And in that case, it takes box number 1 from full screen to split view. So you're just going from full screen 1 to split, and it runs that macro, and it waits a little bit before it runs that, but it runs that macro. And otherwise, it goes red in the background if that's on program. Same goes for this one, only it runs a different macro. And then if you have more buttons, they do more macros. The more complicated setup is in the individual camera full screen buttons. So in this case, quite a few things happen here. HM Mini Extreme, it runs the macro, which takes whatever was the SuperSource layout, it takes that box and makes it full. So it goes from camera 1 split all the way to camera 1 full screen, for example. At the same time, it also changes box 1 to camera 1. So this is where you would come in and you can make some changes if you want a different box in there. So if I wanted that to be camera 2, I could do that in here. And in fact, it also waits 250 milliseconds, and it also makes it also changes to that camera on camera 1. So instead of just being a full, what you can do in the SuperSource options is you can make one camera full screen, but it can have some weird side effects like a line down the side. So after the animation is done, I actually switch your program to that camera. That way it fills the screen nicely, which looks great. And then it does some funny button text things just to make all these buttons work just fine. And then there's some feedback as well, just to say that's on program and change this text and stuff. So you can tinker through that. Like I said, if you head over to layouts and you download a page right now, you'll be able to just mess around, import it, give it a go, and you know, let me know how it goes. But yeah, that's a little run through that. Let me see. Any other thoughts in here? Livestream says, any update price plan for those that own the static SuperSource pack? Yes, absolutely. I sent out I actually sent out the same link that will be valid for only a short while longer. I'll remove that link from this video, but that will still be valid for anyone who bought the static version. In fact, you should have gotten an email about that throughout the week. So if you didn't, just let me know. Send me an email. But I did send out a email this week to anyone who bought the static SuperSource pack with the 25% off discount as well. So go give that a click. That will be valid for anyone who bought the static pack. That link, that discount code is not going to go anywhere. It's only just on this video description that it will disappear in the coming days for sure. So there you go. Thank you so much for buying and getting that original pack. Appreciate it a lot. If any more questions come in around that, then I will certainly look back on them. The whole idea in this case, which is what I talked about a little bit last week, was that the work that Adam's done in Mix Effect Pro and the work that the team has done over in A to Z Productions are just sort of two different ways of doing this. Adam's is very much like animate between lots of different layouts, and the A to Z folks have done, here's all the layouts that you might need, and download them all into your setup. And then what I kind of wanted to do was sit in between those two somewhere and just say, you choose the layout that you want, because the idea here really is not to have 5 different layouts and go between them all. It's more for, I'm doing a presentation, or I'm recording someone doing a presentation, and I just want to go from their slides to them speaking, full screen, small again, full screen, small again. That's really the focus on for this project. So I really hope you find it useful, and I know that many of the streams I've done, I've used Mix Effect for, and that's been really great. But for many clients as well, I don't really want lots of different layouts and changing, and I don't have to bring an iPad or an M1 Mac. I just want to have a few buttons on my Stream Deck that work the way I expect them to. So I think that's like a nice middle ground. And then if you really want to go for the M1 or the iPad version, then that's great too. And I'm sure many people have. I know that for sure. Lots of people have are using Mix Effect. It's pretty incredible how much it's grown over the last, 6 to not even 12 months. I don't think it's even that old, which is excellent. Yes, really great. I think I would really like to, what else was on my agenda of stuff to get through before, yeah, so we talked about that, and I talked about H2R Graphics. I was going to talk about that a little bit. A couple of weeks ago, I announced the beta, which seems to be going quite well. I've gotten lots of feedback and thoughts along the way, which is helpful, definitely helpful to have any thoughts and feedback. If you want to get in on the beta, it's actually not really a closed beta at all. All you have to do is go over to H2R.graphics. That's pretty easy. and on the site there you can just sign up for email. I think for now I'll keep it this way, where it's not like a direct download from the website, but it is a email list. That way, whenever I release a new version, then I can send that to you much faster than you running on a beta version for way too long and missing out on lots of features. That's really the idea behind the email list. But if you sign up, you should get an email to confirm your sign up, and then a few minutes later you'll get an email with the download link. And be sure to check your spam for that, because I have had a few reports that they didn't get it, but really it was finding its way into the spam. So that's where to go to get that, definitely. Your spam folder. No, H2R.graphics to grab the beta of version 2. And I'm just going to put a link to that in the chat. And if you want to wait a couple more days, then you'll find that version 2.1 will be released with some improvements, some fixes from the previous beta. And then I'm hoping, someone asked me today how long it's going to be in beta for, which is a good question. And I'm hoping that the beta won't last more than a month or two at the most. But I found it to be fairly reliable so far, which is good. That's mostly what this beta phase was for. The alpha phase, it got pretty reliable during, and then this beta phase is where a lot of the getting it to as many people's computers as possible was the idea. So that's that. Let me just double check. Where did I put my thing at? There you go. Yeah, there's the link, H2R.graphics, if you want to check that out. Yeah, I do recommend it, definitely. I think it'll be fun to get yourself in the beta and give it a download and see how it goes. So I think since I basically spent about 30 minutes there talking about layouts, which is excellent, I still have more to talk about though, and I'm going to get to that in a second. I have this device here to take you on a little tour of. I think we'll do that in the post show. Go through the Atom X cast, and we can just talk about some of its features, what it can do, and what you might be able to do with it. My plan is to make a full video on the device itself, if it works out that way. If I feel like I have enough to say about it and stuff. That's usually what I'm aiming for. Do I have enough to say about this thing? And I hope so. But if you have any questions about that, we can get into it in a minute. I'll take you on a little tour of it and see how it works and what I've found so far. But I just want to thank you for watching the show. If you're watching live, stick around. The post show is live here on the same link. You don't have to go anywhere at all. If you're watching on demand, then that's a bit different. The post show is for members only. And I did see a couple of people who became members of the channel early on in this live stream, so I appreciate that a lot. And I appreciate a couple of the super supporters on the channel: Jay Reese, Petra Tech Condo, Patrick, and Jim at Cloud Bedrock. Those are the ones who are supreme supporters, and I really appreciate them and your support along the way. And thank you so much for the super chat as well earlier, Joel. That was very nice of you too. And here's Richard with some popcorn, coming just on time for us to bring the show into the post show, answer some more questions, and I guess I'll see you there in a few seconds if you're watching live. You don't have to go anywhere. Okay, starting this.